Christian Sprenger, cinematographer for Atlanta. Marcell Rev, cinematographer for Euphoria. Mark Doering-Powell, cinematographer for GROWNISH. And David Mullen, cinematographer for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And Jacob Kerber, cinematographer for RuPaul's Drag Race, all Emmy Award nominees this year for their incredible cinematography on these shows. Thank you all for doing this. I wanted to start just broadly, when did you realize becoming a cinematographer was something you could do or something that you wanted to do? Christian, I'll start with you and we'll go around.
I went to film school, and I actually went to film school thinking I was going to get into motion graphics and visual effects, and realized that it was way better to hang out on set with cool people than to be stuck in a chair in a dark room. I went to school in Chicago, and there wasn't that much production there. But I would say, performing arts school and the community, the sort of artistic community in Chicago really fostered that and made it something that could be a career. Nice.
Marcell?
Around 16 or 17, I decided to not going to get into economics, but I would rather go into filmmaking. And early on, I knew for somehow, although I didn't really knew what a DP is doing, I knew that I want to be behind the camera. I don't know how. And nice. I went to film school too. I was born and raised in Budapest. I went to film school here and started out here.
Nice. I think we're all better that you think, good thing you passed on economics, I believe. I think that was probably a wise choice. Mark, how about you?
Yeah, I guess for me, it would have started even in high school when my parents owned a video store outside of an air base. My dad was in the Air Force there, and my mom's German. She still lives there. And I was, in school there, I was helping out with their store, and I'd watch all these videos, and I became maybe a little bit of a film buff just watching more movies. And then I went to school though I was majoring in painting and graphic design, and I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. And while I was there, I discovered in the basement underneath the gym was this little fledgling computer graphics department, which really caught my attention. At the time, they had very advanced workstations from Alias Wavefront, which became Maya 3D stations later on. And so it's just very advanced. They had gotten these workstations gifted to them, and had like a graduate program that was working on this. And it was amazing at the time, right, to see this stuff. And while I was there, I was exposed to this little tiny film department. And that's what I ended up doing. I switched my majors in my sophomore year and decided to do film. And first year, I was just like running around New York doing a documentary on New York, basically. That was my first project, and just fell in love holding a camera, and and just sort of knew nothing about lighting. I just remember discovering lighting slowly. You just sort of discover it, you see it, you learn to, you learn how to use a light meter, but then you realize, don't set your lens to that reading. It's something else, interpret it. And just that, the joy in that was really cinematography is endlessly fascinating to this day, even as long as I've been doing it. You just never stop learning. And I think that same kind of infectious curiosity, you get that bug and you just keep going. And that's how I got into it back in film school.
That's great. David, how about yourself?
I started making Super 8 short films in high school, but I went to college as a pre-med student. But very quickly, once I got to college, I realized I didn't really want to be a doctor, and I kept making short films. Eventually, I went to CalArts graduate film school when I was about 26, but by this point, I'd been making Super 8 short films for a decade, and quickly became a cinematographer at CalArts because I already knew how to shoot in light and stuff. So I sort of fell into cinematography at CalArts while I was there.
That's great. And Jake, yourself?
I think I had a glimmer of it in high school, but at that point in early college years, I was actually in fine arts. I wanted to be a painter, or I was, going down that path, and but still kind of shooting my own stuff with, whatever camera I could get my hands on, and then that just continued to grow. And I'd always been drawn to, all the elements that make up a film. the visual elements, lighting, and camera, architecture, music, all of these things. So it was, I realized like I want to do something where all of that's coming together, and storytelling, of course. So yeah, it just seemed like an obvious kind of pivot for me. And yeah, I'm glad.
Do you think being a painter helped you even more from a visual perspective as well, or wanting to be a painter like that?
Definitely, yeah. And a lot of my paintings, I mean, this is in like my first year of college, so very early days, but a lot of it was trying to show movement, or trying to show almost like triptychs, like steps, or like different moments in the painting. So I think I was already trying to like give more movement and tell more than just a single frame could express. Yeah,
that's great. So the next one would be best advice you've gotten as a cinematographer, or something you took early on in your careers that you were like, wow, this is something I've carried with me that I still think of now as an acclaimed Emmy nominee that you all are. Christian, I'll start with you, and we can go back around.
Boy, I don't know. I think some of my most influential, film school teachers, I think probably some of the most valuable advice was at the time in film school was, to get out on set and work as much as possible outside of our curriculum, and meet as many people that, you like working with, and people that you like to, spend 12 hours a day with. And I've been extremely fortunate to have a core crew that has, we've kind of all worked together for the better half of the last 15 years. And, it makes work not feel like work when you've got your friends with you. And I think that's been a huge aspect to, where I am in my career right now, has been the people I've been lucky enough to work with. So.
Yeah, that's great. Marcell?
It's not really an advice, but something I learned throughout my film school years is that mostly from fellow students, is that it's worth trusting the people you're working with, especially directors you like to work with, and because when you're in film school and when you're starting out, you're really focused on your part in this machine, and I think it's you have to learn, or at least I have to learn to listen and to actually understand what's going on around me, and what kind of story that person who's directing or writing that movie is trying to tell. And I think that's something was important for me.
Yeah. Mark, how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things I keep going back to is, we do very complicated work sometimes, and I try to simplify. I try to find what the scene is about. What's the core thing that you're trying to find in this, whether it's a character study or a story point. And whenever I've done that, it always helps. It always helps you strip away the complexities, the things that don't need to be in the frame that you shouldn't be worried about. Kind of helps distill the scene down to its most important elements. And that's been a real guiding principle for myself. And also the crew. It's all about the crew. I mean, I have just, my gaffers, Jay Yowler, Key Grip, Paul Schmidt, they're just amazing. They get along great. Just a pleasure to come to work. I've got, Robert Shear, Michael Kleiman, the focus pullers that I'm working with. They're just all easygoing. Everybody looks out for each other. They look out for me. They keep me from making a mistake. Like, we're just all, take care of each other. And that is really, season 4, we had no hiatus, and went straight through January through, the summer. And I think we finished in June or July. In June, end of June. And man, that is hard, to not have any breaks. And I even had a 60 week, a 70 week, and a 60 week at some point. I had to prep on the weekend, and you just need help around you. And so the crew is just incredibly important that you bring with you. And yeah, they're all amazing.
Yeah. David, how about you? A good piece of advice or something you've carried through with you in your career?
Right before I shot my first feature, a very small film, I ran into Alan Davia on the streets of Hollywood, and he told me, know your first week's work backwards and forwards, you know, and I take that to mean that basically, if you know the first few days or weeks, depending on your size of your project thoroughly, like every setup, every light you want to do in your head, it'll go so smoothly that it'll set the right tone for the rest of the show. By the second week, third week, a lot of decisions are based on the first week's work in terms of the style you've set up and the flow of things and how you work with the actors. But it helps to start on the right foot by really being prepared. So that's the thing that I keep in mind if I can, is just be almost over prepared for the first few days at least. So it goes as like clockwork.
That's awesome. Great person, great man on the street bumping into there. That's not every day you get to do that. And Jake, for you, last one here.
Those are all great anecdotes and advice. I don't have a specific piece of advice that was given to me. I do remember early on, I happened to be spending time with this manager who was managing an actor on a TV set, and I had told him, and this was like my second year of film school, I think, and I told him, like, I want to be a DP, you know, that's what I want to do professionally. And he said, "You'll never make it, you're way too nice." and I thought, well, that's fascinating. And I think, like, it kind of goes along with everyone talking about the importance of working with people and trusting people you're working with. I think that there is room to do what we do and be a nice person, you know. Like, you don't have to be tyrannical and you know, just I don't know. I think there's this idea that is the way things have to be sometimes, or this myth of that kind of personality. And I've met so many just like sweet, sensitive people that are also, you know, very focused, very good at what they do. And anyway, that's just that struck me as everyone's kind of talking about that.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. And like all of you all obviously have worked frequently with the same collaborators and same crew, and the work I think speaks for itself there as well. We're going to wrap up here, but I just want to, again, Christian Sprenger from Atlanta, Marcell Rev from Euphoria, Mark Doering-Powell, GROWNISH, M. David Mullen, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Jacob Kerber from RuPaul's Drag Race, all Emmy nominees this year for their cinematography. Incredible work. Please check it out. And thank you all for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.